In late August 2019, the turquoise waters surrounding the Bahamas looked as peaceful as ever. Sunlight shimmered across endless stretches of ocean, and gentle breezes carried the familiar rhythm of island life. Families prepared for another quiet week. Fishermen set out before dawn. Children played along the shore. Yet far out in the Atlantic, an atmospheric disturbance was quietly gathering strength, a storm that would soon rewrite the history of the islands and leave scars that would last for generations. Meteorologists began tracking what would become Hurricane Dorian as a tropical wave moving westward across the ocean. At first, it seemed unremarkable, one of many storms that form each season. But conditions were unusually favorable: warm sea surface temperatures, low wind shear, and a moist atmosphere created the perfect environment for intensification. As Dorian approached the Caribbean, forecasts grew increasingly ominous. Residents listened closely to weather bulletins. Supplies were stocked. Windows were boarded. Still, few could imagine the scale of destruction that was coming.
As Dorian moved north of Puerto Rico, it rapidly strengthened. Satellite images revealed a tightening circulation and deepening convection. Within days, the storm intensified into a major hurricane. By the time it approached the northwestern Bahamas, Dorian had reached Category 5 strength, the highest level on the Saffir-Simpson scale, with sustained winds estimated at around 185 miles per hour. What made Dorian especially terrifying was not only its power but its behavior. Forecast models began indicating that the storm would slow dramatically, potentially stalling over the islands. This meant prolonged exposure to catastrophic winds, relentless rainfall, and life-threatening storm surge. Emergency officials issued urgent warnings. Evacuation orders were given in vulnerable areas. Shelters filled quickly as people sought safety. Across the Abaco Islands and Grand Bahama, tension grew with every passing hour.
On September 1, 2019, Hurricane Dorian made landfall in the Abaco Islands as one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded to strike the Atlantic basin. The eye wall slammed into communities with unimaginable force. Buildings shuddered under the relentless assault of wind. Roofs were torn away. Trees snapped like matchsticks. Then came the water. Storm surge, driven by the hurricane's immense winds, pushed walls of seawater inland. In some areas, water levels rose more than 20 feet above normal tide. Entire neighborhoods were submerged. Streets turned into raging channels filled with debris. For many residents, survival became a moment-to-moment struggle. Families huddled in attics or climbed onto rooftops as floodwaters rose around them. The roar of the wind was constant, like a freight train that never passed. Communication networks failed. Power was lost. Darkness fell over the islands as the storm continued to rage.
Unlike most hurricanes, which move steadily across land, Dorian slowed to a crawl. For nearly 2 days, the storm hovered over Grand Bahama, battering the island with continuous hurricane-force winds and torrential rain. The prolonged assault amplified the destruction. Homes that survived the initial impact began to fail under sustained pressure. Floodwaters lingered, trapping residents and complicating rescue efforts. Emergency responders faced dangerous conditions, often unable to reach those in need. From the air, the devastation was staggering. Entire communities appeared flattened. Boats lay scattered far inland. Infrastructure was crippled, roads washed out, airports damaged, and hospitals overwhelmed. The psychological toll was immense. People endured hours that felt like eternity, uncertain whether the storm would ever move on.
Amid the chaos, countless acts of courage unfolded. Neighbors rescued neighbors using small boats and improvised rafts. Families shared limited supplies in shelters. Volunteers risked their lives navigating flooded streets to check on the elderly and vulnerable. Yet the storm also brought heartbreaking loss. Many families were separated. Some were trapped by rising waters with no escape. The official death toll would later rise, but the true human cost extended far beyond numbers, measured in grief, trauma, and shattered communities. Survivors described scenes of unimaginable destruction, entire blocks erased, homes reduced to foundations, and personal belongings scattered across miles of debris. For many, returning home meant confronting the reality that everything they owned was gone.
When Dorian finally moved away from the Bahamas, it left behind a humanitarian crisis. Tens of thousands of people were displaced. Clean water was scarce. Food supplies were disrupted. Medical needs were urgent. Search and rescue operations began immediately, involving local authorities, international teams, and volunteers. Helicopters surveyed flooded areas, identifying survivors stranded on rooftops or isolated by debris. Temporary shelters were established, though conditions were often difficult. The scale of damage was overwhelming. Entire power grids had to be rebuilt. Schools and clinics required extensive repairs. Economic activity, heavily dependent on tourism and local businesses, came to a sudden halt. For many residents, the path forward was uncertain.
The international community responded with aid and support. Governments, humanitarian organizations, and private donors mobilized resources to assist recovery efforts. Supplies including food, water, medical equipment, and building materials were shipped to the islands. Relief workers faced significant logistical challenges. Damaged ports and airports limited access. Flooded roads slowed distribution. Despite these obstacles, efforts continued around the clock to provide assistance. Communities around the world watched closely, moved by images of resilience and solidarity emerging from the Bahamas. Fundraising campaigns raised millions to support rebuilding efforts.
Recovery from Hurricane Dorian was not measured in days or weeks, but in years. Residents began the difficult process of clearing debris and repairing what could be saved. Temporary housing became a reality for many families while long-term reconstruction plans were developed. Engineers and planners emphasized building stronger, more resilient structures capable of withstanding future storms. Discussions about climate resilience and disaster preparedness gained urgency, as scientists pointed to warming oceans potentially contributing to stronger hurricanes. Despite the immense challenges, the spirit of the Bahamian people remained unbroken. Community gatherings, cultural traditions, and mutual support played a vital role in healing.
Hurricane Dorian stands as a stark reminder of nature's power and the vulnerability of coastal communities. It highlighted the importance of early warning systems, emergency preparedness, and resilient infrastructure. Meteorologists studied the storm extensively, analyzing its rapid intensification and unusual stalling behavior. These insights continue to inform forecasting models and disaster planning strategies worldwide. For policymakers and residents alike, Dorian reinforced the need to prepare for extreme weather events that may become more frequent or severe.
Today, memories of Hurricane Dorian remain deeply etched in the Bahamas. Memorials honor those who lost their lives, while rebuilt communities reflect determination and hope. The storm's legacy is one of tragedy, but also of resilience, a testament to the strength of people who faced one of the most powerful hurricanes in recorded history and chose to rebuild. The story of Dorian is not only about destruction. It is about courage in the face of overwhelming odds, about communities coming together when everything seemed lost, and about the enduring human spirit that rises, again and again, after the storm.